Very good morning.
Thank you, sir.
Can start?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and also it's my pleasure to be with all of you this morning and then share few thoughts and ideas. Basically, I'll try to focus on the challenges in setting up of sustainable, and successful rural enterprises. And in the entire session, I'll be referring mainly to the setting up of successful, farmer producer institutions in India. Friends, you're all aware that agriculture continues to be a major, source of income, livelihood, employment for the major chunk of people living in the rural areas. And if you look at the classification of Indian farmers, close to 83% of the Indian farmers are small and marginal farmers. And this 83% of small and marginal farmers, they cover around 50% of the operational holdings. And if you think that, this among the small and marginal farmers, it's about 65% are the marginal farmers, and more than 90% of the small and marginal farmers, they depend again on rain-fed agriculture. Means they don't have access to sources of irrigation. And in absolute numbers, if you were to talk, it's around 90 to 100 million small and marginal farmers. They depend on agriculture for their income, their employment, and their livelihoods. So we need to, focus our attention on this group of farmers. And if you look at the studies and the survey reports of the sample survey organization, it very clearly brings out one point. Given an opportunity, these small and marginal farmers would like to move out of agriculture. It means people who are working for the rural development, people who are working in the sector of agriculture, horticulture, and allied subjects have a tremendous responsibility to join hands with the government and to see that agriculture or allied activities are made profitable to these farmers and we retain them in agriculture. Otherwise, we will have a very tough time in the future. We need to feed the growing population of 1.4 billion population in the country. So at any point of time, we will not be able to give away these small and marginal farmers out of agriculture. And as a matter of fact, subdivision and fragmentation of these small and these land holdings in the country, it is going to happen. No force on the earth can stop this subdivision and fragmentation because the land get inherited to his children and then to the next group and all that. Like this, it may not be a wonder in the maybe in some time later we may have only bunds laid across all our lands. But that will not happen. What I'm trying to say here is physical consolidation of these land holdings is not possible, but we should do it in such a way that we are trying to notionally consolidate these land holdings by helping farmers to produce profitable, suitable crops over a large area of land. So this is the only, way that we can help and address the difficulties, faced by the small and marginal farmers. And if you look at the existing extension system that transfers technologies to the farmers, it's also, there are a lot of limitations. And if one of the study shows only around 9 to 10% of the farmers, they receive the required technology from the sources of the government, basically people who are in the development departments, universities, and all that. While 19% of these farmers, they depend on the private sector input dealers as far as their information requirement is concerned. It very clearly implies that there is a need to help these small and marginal farmers to get connected to the proper institutional mechanisms so that they get proper information as and when they need it. And we also address other issues. So looking at all these constraints faced by the farmers, I'm not trying to, list out other challenges. As we are all aware, these small and marginal farmers or farming community as a whole, they face several challenges in getting or in procuring good quality inputs that they require, and getting inputs on time, and getting inputs at an affordable price. So this is a very big constraint. The second thing is, as I mentioned about the extension strategies, the farmers also do not fetch the required information as and when they need it, and sometimes they even do not get the field level support. This is another important problem being faced by the farmers. And the third important aspect is, because of the small holdings, they cannot afford to, keep their own machineries, keep their own tools and implements to till their lands. There is a need to help them with custom hiring facilities so that mechanization is made, affordable to them. And the last and very important aspect is marketing. As we are aware, in the entire, market chain, we have a big number of intermediaries that are involved. So this makes farmers, lot of farmers, majority of the farmers, they lose their major portion of the profits that they would have earned from agriculture production, that will be withdrawn by these intermediaries. So there's a need to address all these issues. And looking at all these problems, it was in 2002, the government of India, the central government, set up a committee, requested the committee to give, a report to the government. What are the problems, challenges faced by these farmers, especially the small and marginal farmers, and also a way forward to address those issues. After the submission of the report by Professor Y.K. Alur and his committee, the government decided, yes, there is a need. The cooperatives which were established in the country, they have not been able to fulfill all those requirements for which they were established. There is a need to look at coming out with a new institutional setup, a new institutional mechanism in a very innovative way, so that these farmers get, benefit out of it, and also this institution setup will help them to address several challenges faced in the entire value chain. So looking at that, during 2013, central government, came out with an amendment to the existing act, the Companies Act of 1956, helping the farmers to institute their companies, incorporate their companies, their organizations as companies under Companies Act. So what I mean to say here is, these farmers institutions, we call them as producer organizations, we call them as farmer producer companies, they're all synonyms to each other. But the very purpose is to see that these institutions, they help, they benefit, and help the farmers to address so-called challenges that we discussed very few minutes back in a very systematic way, in a structured way. With this, we started the journey of instituting these rural enterprises. These farmer producer organizations are nothing but business enterprises set up in the rural areas. They have all the qualities of a cooperative. They continue to keep all the characteristic features of the cooperative, and they are also, possessing the qualities of a private sector organization as far as their management and marketing related aspects are concerned. I mean to say, an FPO, which is a farmer owned company or an institution, but is a hybrid between a cooperative and a private sector institution. So when we look at setting up of these institutions, so the law has given provision. We have been making a headway in setting up of these institutions from last, say, 8 to 9 years in this country. But there are several challenges. The topic that we have chosen today is a very relevant topic because, unless we address these issues of, farmers, we will not be able to, arrive at a very, a solid solutions to these things. So I would like to throw my light, I'm a focus on the challenges of setting up of the sustainable, successful rural enterprises. My reference will be almost on the farmer producers organizations. So based on the experience, if you look at the challenges relating to the farmers, all of us who have gathered here, we will definitely have this, experience, challenges with relating to the farmers. It is very, very important. One is lack of awareness about the FPOs. Farmers are not aware of these rural enterprises. They don't know much about their qualities, what benefits they bring to them. It's very, very difficult for every farmer to get the same knowledge. This is one big challenge. So we need to address this challenge through such programs, giving a wide awareness about these institutions. Then comes difficulty. The second challenge is difficulty in mobilizing the farmers. See, most of the farmers have a lot of difficulties. They have undergone a lot of bad experiences, bitter experiences in their earlier association with different institutions. So whenever you approach them with a good purpose of organizing them into an FPO, they will suddenly go to that reflection. They will have their memories of associating themselves with other institutions, their bitter experiences. So you need to guide them, advise them, share with them the realities, not promising them the heaven on earth. So it's very, very important for the facilitator, a person who is involved in mobilizing these farmers. We need to convince them, tell them, make them realize this cannot happen overnight. You need to build a good rapport with them. You should develop a good faith with them. Then only they will feel comfortable to talk to you. They will listen to you, and with your repeated relationship with them, you should be able to mobilize them into an organization. The next important challenge that we face in identifying the leaders, it's a very, very tough task in the current situation. Whenever you want to set up a rural enterprise like an FPO, it's very difficult to identify leaders without any selfish motive. It's very tough task. Second, we need to identify some qualities. These leaders should be selfless. They should provide their personal time to organize farmers into groups. They should be also, having knowledge, good skills of, interpersonal skills, talking skills, convincing skills. It's a very tough task in the rural setup to identify such leaders. And then selection of the promoter directors. Whenever you want to set up a rural enterprise, you have to identify a good number of group leaders. Out of those group leaders, you need to identify the promoting directors. When you set up a rural enterprise, in the beginning, we at least have to have 10 directors to promote. They become the promoter directors of any enterprise. So in that situation, it's very difficult to select them because they come with a lot of luggage. They affiliate themselves to caste, creed, color, region, religion, political parties, all those things. And you want people to shed all these things and come into your institution. It's a very, very difficult task to do it. But with our experience, we should be able to design certain mechanisms to identify good leaders and do it. When it comes to selection of the FPO leaders, I have seen at every level you have a lot of political interference. People, one party wants their representatives, another party wants their representatives, and there are certain neutral groups, they want their people to come here. Like this, you have several difficulties in checking the political interference when it comes to setting up of a rural enterprise. And when you are selecting farmers, though we talk these institutions are mainly meant for small and marginal farmers because they are facing several challenges in farming and related enterprises, but we still don't want to keep away the medium and large farmers. When these medium and large farmers become the members of these institutions, they have the habit of dominating, the institutions, and they always wish to occupy the leadership role. So these are 6 to 7 important challenges that we face when we set up a rural enterprise. These challenges are basically connected to identifying farmers, bringing them an institution, helping them to become leaders and set up their own institutions. You have several interferences happening. So these are the challenges relating to farmers. Next comes, whenever you wish to set up an enterprise, we always look for the participation of the farmers. When we talk about the participation, is basically we are talking about participation of the farmers, participation of farmers in terms of contribution of the share amount, so that they feel their ownership. If everything is free, there is no ownership. So there are challenges associated with collection of the shares. Here in this case, lack of confidence of the farmers in the rural enterprise. They think that this such schemes will come, such people will come, they take away the money. So they don't have confidence whether they should contribute the share amount in this or not. When it comes to decision about amount, how much share to be collected from the farmers, and some big farmers always want to say that they want to contribute big money, and then some small farmers are not in a position to afford it. So we have made certain guidelines, though the Company Act is very clear about it. Here in this case, when we set up a rural enterprise in the form of an FPO, we have made it very clear that every farmer, whether big or small, will have a single share. The share amount will be equal among all these people, and they will have a common vote, one single vote. So that is very important. So convincing these farmers to pay the share amount is a very tough task. Though it is mainly because of their difficulty in giving the money, and especially the pandemic has really devastated the capacities of the small and marginal farmers. But even if they are willing to contribute, there is lot of demand to see how these things can be done in a very equitable way. One more thing, and there is a demand of the farmers to transfer shares to others. This is not possible. See, these shares cannot be traded in these FPOs. So the share transfer is possible only to the nominee, and after passing certain stages, whenever the head of the family in whose name the share has been given, he passes away, or he is not capable of continuing in agriculture sector, his share can be transferred to the nominee that he has made in the application at the beginning. So these are very, very important things. And I have seen in many cases, people, they want to get back their shares. So once they invest, it's hardly 1,500 rupees, but there are a lot of issues, requests for returning the share amount. Once they lose interest in FPO or any rural enterprise, they want to get back their shares. So these are certain important challenges that we face in collection of the shares. Then coming to the management of these institutions, governance is very, very important. When it comes to governance, basically we always say these are farmer owned companies, farmer owned enterprises. They're also managed by the farmers. But as you are all aware, and we all come from the rural background, farmers are not trained in managerial aspects. They have certain difficulties in looking at finances, in looking at human resource management, lot of things. So, but the law, the act very clearly says these are to be managed by the farmers. So what we usually do, we identify around 15, maximum 15 board of directors are to be identified out of the shareholders, and they will be the board of directors who will take care of the day-to-day management. When you look at the skill set possessed by these board of directors, we have a lot of challenges. They lack complete FPO management skills. So this is a new institution for them. We need to build their capacities. We need to push them. We need to help them to develop ideas and to run their institution. They don't have financial management skills. When it comes to HR skills, there are a lot of difficulties, and business skills are mostly absent in some of them. Bargaining skills. See, they have to deal with corporates. When they deal with corporates, bargaining is a very important, required quality, and they have a lot of difficulty in bargaining with the customers. And also there is a big problem of mutual faith. This is a tremendous problem as far as their faith is concerned. And slowly, they start grouping themselves into different groups. That groupism among the board of directors will really make it very difficult for an FPO to any rural entrepreneurship enterprise to become sustainable. So these are the challenges associated with the board of directors and their skills. When it comes to identifying and appointing a good chief executive officer, CEO, we have several challenges, related to this. The challenges relating to chief executive officer, basically in Indian context, the FPO or FPC or producer organization is a new concept. We don't have any specified educational qualification for people to become CEOs. We are now trying to advocate new courses, but our preference will be for people who have a good experience in agriculture, horticulture, sericulture related aspects, or post-harvest handling, value addition, marketing. It means a technical degree, combined with a management degree would be a very desirable degree for any CEO to lead a company. It's very difficult. And if you look at the practical way, we have guys with SSLC qualification, we have guys with a PhD qualification. What I mean to say here is, it is very difficult to identify a right candidate to lead your institution as a CEO. One is non-availability of CEO. I mean, a person with a proper qualification. We don't have required skill sets among them. They don't have good exposure. They don't have relevant education. That's another issue. Business experience is almost nil. We don't get people with experience. When you analyze their HR qualities, they're also very difficult to get people with good HR qualities. When it comes to general management skills, they are very poor in managerial skills. There's a high attrition rate. They come with a lot of enthusiasm. Sometimes they feel that it is not their cup of tea, they quit. Or when they get little higher, remuneration, they leave this institution and go there. You can't stop them. But there's a high attrition rate. It's another big challenge with regard to CEOs. And the most important one is there is a lack of coordination between board of directors and the chief executive officer. This is a very big difficulty. So, and when you look at the remuneration being paid to the CEOs, it's very low, and highly qualified people don't stick on for a long time. And a lot of new opportunities are available. They get some experience here and use this experience or use this rural enterprise as a springboard to jump into new institution. So these are 8 to 10 important challenges that we see with regard to identifying, appointing a good CEO for your rural enterprise. The next important challenge is, the group of challenges is basically relating to mobilizing institutional credit. Any rural enterprise to take off, any rural enterprise to start their business, they need to have a proper institutional credit available to them. They may have certain amount of share collected from their members, but this is not sufficient for them to take off a big business. So they need to approach institutional credit mechanisms. In that case, when they go to the bankers, they have long procedures, lengthy procedures of banks in providing credits to these FPOs. They ask you 101 things which an FPO is not able to give in the first 1 or 2 or 3 years. The credit guarantee scheme is given to those FPOs where minimum they have 500 farmers. If they have 499, the scheme is not applicable to them. And then we have, mobilizing huge capital from the bank in initial stages. Nobody will believe you. So any banker, if they're not willing to give you, they will ask you 101 question and then send you off. And these institutions, rural institutions or FPOs, they don't have tangible assets to give as a security, or they don't have any physical asset to provide surety. They also don't have a proper credit history because they are new. So all these are the big problems with regard to mobilizing institutional credit. So banks, they look at early stage FPOs, they're not credit worthy. So these are the challenges that we face in mobilizing institutional credit. Challenges pertaining to financials. So if you look at the resource base, as I mentioned to you earlier, it's just your share amount and nothing else more than that. It means to say you have a poor initial financial resource base, and see, they cannot collect more money. Every farmer can contribute 10,000 rupees share, and then the money can be very big. But since we are dealing with small and marginal farmers, collecting 1,000, 2,000 rupees per farmer itself is a tough task. So this will result in a very poor financial resource base in the beginning. Farmers look at FPOs to provide financial credit to them. It's very difficult, which is not at all possible. FPOs cannot do any credit business in the beginning of their history. And then if you look at the farmers' contribution, you cannot expect them to contribute more shares. So these are all the challenges relating to financials of any rural enterprise. When it comes to mobilization of equity grants, today the Honorable Prime Minister is distributing the equity grants to several FPOs in the country. At 12 o'clock, I'm going to join their group. So constraints in preparing the documents. When you look at the equity grants, suppose if you have collected 15 lakh rupees as a share amount in your rural enterprise or your FPO, the central government provides an matching equity grant of 15 lakh rupees. 15 lakh rupees is the ceiling. But when it comes to submission of the documents, there's a long list of documents to be produced, and there's a lengthy procedure involved in this. This also makes FPOs a tough task for them. If you look at the challenges relating to policy, see, we always try to make policies more user-friendly, people-friendly. There is inadequate knowledge about the acts and guidelines of FPOs. Nobody wants to read them, especially the people who are at the helm of affairs in these rural enterprises. They never bother to understand what are the provisions of an act, what are the provisions of the guidelines in the state or in the country. And there is a lack of awareness about the statutory compliances. When you set up a company, you are supposed to cater, you are supposed to give, respond to the legal requirements. If you don't comply to those legal compliances, the institutions will have a lot of difficulty. You end up in paying a lot of penalties. And you cannot say that I don't know, I'm unaware of it. Also, if you look at the lack of information availability, it's also very difficult. And very few institutions talk about the information pertaining to these rural institutions. New schemes, lot of new schemes are being brought out by the central government, state governments and all that. But even then, the FPOs are not aware. The rural enterprises are not aware of these schemes. And there is a lack of uniformity between the state and the central policy. There is a need that we should fall in sync with the state and central policy so that the procedures are same, the facilities are same, and farmers have no difficulty in doing it. And the next set of challenges are pertaining to technical skills and also in mobilizing the technical services by these rural enterprises. Rural enterprises require a lot of technical information. They need a lot of technical support. They need a lot of ground level support when they set up, when they establish, when they operate, when they expand. So this technical information, as I mentioned, when it comes to agriculture, because most of the rural enterprises in rural areas, they are focusing on agriculture and allied activities. So there is no proper or strong link between the technical institutions and these rural enterprises, whether it is KVKs, whether they're universities. They need to strengthen. They need to go back to them, ask them, build a good rapport with the research institutions, educational institutions, Krishi Vijnana Kendras, departmental officers, so that the flow of information, flow of technical service is very, very clear. And the interest among the scientists will become more and more when people start going them, meeting them, interacting with them, asking them. Otherwise, they lose their interest. So this is another important big challenge, or these are the set of challenges that we face in linking farmers with the technical institutions. Coming to the challenges, there are several government schemes I was talking to you, whether it's a state government scheme or a central government scheme, there are challenges in mobilizing the government schemes. One, there is a lack of awareness among the rural enterprises about these schemes. Many times they go, there is a non-cooperation from the development departments, lack of availability of the proper documents. Sometimes they don't have the documents, but they insist for it. And there are rigid terms and conditions. Government cannot give away all the schemes as you wish, but people have to understand what are the terms and conditions, what are the guidelines for allocating it, how do we access these schemes. So this is another important challenge. Most of us, we see it in the setting up of a stronger rural enterprises. Coming to when we talk about rural enterprises, most of them, they deal with the selection of different crops, suitable crops or crop related industries. So when you talk to the farmers about selection of few crops, see, you can't grow 101 crops and then make profits. You need to consolidate farmers in terms of growing common crops that are suitable to the area, suitable to the climatic situations, and there is a demand in the market. So if you look, when you go and interact with the farmers, because all these challenges, what I'm trying to share with you is based on our experience with the farmers, their institutions, the rural institutions, farmers groups, all that. One is there is a diverse interest among the farmers with regard to production of crops. I want to grow 1 crop, 2 crop, 3 crop, 10 crops. And we have similarly 1,000 farmers growing 10 crops. You imagine the number of crops and all that. It is very difficult. You cannot attain the economies of scale. So crop selection, see, you can focus on 3, 4, 5 crops and not more than that. Only then you will get the strength of dealing with the buyers, the strength of setting up of your own, grading and sorting institutions, or you will be able to process them, add value, and then sell it at a better price. So there's a diverse interest of farmers. It's a big challenge. You cannot change their mindset immediately. You need to have a repeated, dialogues with them. Make them understand what is good for them, what is good in the market, what is the demand in the market. They have to grow those crops. Difficulty in restricting the farmers to grow only few crops. It's a very tough task. They have been habituated to grow many crops. And difficulty in promoting uniform crop varieties. What happens? We talk about economies of scale when we set up a farmers institution. If 100 farmers produce different 100 varieties of the same crop is same, but the varieties are different. Their qualities are different. Their keeping qualities, their cooking qualities, their processing qualities, all are different. Then it becomes difficult, Where a buyer wants to, buy a uniform produce, and your farmers have grown 10 different varieties. It's very tough task. You need to convince the farmers, make them to produce a similar variety so that the quality of the output will be similar. This is a big challenge. It will take 1 or 2 years for you to convince them. And then comes your lack of technical guidance in selection of the crops. Why this is happening? Because they depend on some private sector organization to give the seeds. And the fellow will sell those seeds whom somebody gives him on credit. So there's a chain link of challenges, problems associated with this. So these are very important for anybody who is trying to work with these rural enterprises. Should have a thorough understanding of all these challenges. Then comes challenges relating to produce marketing. When I produce something X crop, there's a difficulty in aggregating. One farmer feels that his quality is very good. Another farmer's quality of produce is very small. But I want to aggregate and sell. The FPO or a rural enterprise will have difficulty in producing or selling a uniform quality. And then unrealistic demands by the farmers, buyers. Buyers, now they're afraid because these rural enterprises are becoming strong and strong. Farmers are getting aggregated. Their produce is getting aggregated. They still want to keep these farmers separate and so that they get a better margin. So with that, they will try to pose, unrealistic demands. I want this quality, this, that, and all that. When it comes to price, we are all aware there is a huge price fluctuation. And This also brings a lot of challenges in the marketing of the produce. And when you have a good buyer, when we have a good producer, we should strike a balance between them, a good agreement between them, meeting the demands of the buyers, especially with regard to quality and quantity, is another big challenge, especially in marketing of the produce. So these are 8 to 10 big challenges in produce marketing by any rural enterprise. Another important challenge that we are facing when we set up any rural enterprise is basically inadequate access to infrastructure. We don't have any proper rural infrastructure in the villages. They don't have proper place to store their produce. There is complete lack of scientific storage facilities in the villages. We don't have proper transport facilities. We don't have proper cleaning and drying facilities. We don't have sorting facilities. These are all big challenges in the rural areas, especially with regard to facilities or infrastructure. People want to grade their produce, sort it out, group them into different categories and sell it so that they get better price. But this facility is not there. We also don't have simple primary processing facilities. So these are bigger challenges of infrastructure. They don't have proper roads, they don't have storage facilities, they don't have sorting, grading facilities, they don't have, storage facilities. All such facilities relating to infrastructure is another big challenge. Why farmers end up in, distress sale is one of the reason they don't have this infrastructure facility. Before I conclude on the challenges, I would like to list out few things which do not fall into all the 10-15 categories I discussed so far. One is a lengthy procedure in getting different licenses. When you set up a rural enterprise just cannot operate without any license. They also need to fall in place with the legal compliances, the laws of the land. So there's a lengthy procedure in getting different licenses. If they want to set up certain processing facilities, storage facility and all that, there is a lot of difficulty in getting the land. They lack the capacity of operating or establishing the custom hiring centers. Major problem is the political interference. And I have also mentioned to you, there are a lot of issues with the overhead charges. In the beginning, they have tremendous overhead charges. So these are most important, challenges that we usually face when we have to set up a rural enterprise. An FPO can be one of the most benefiting, successful rural enterprise, provided people who are involved in setting up of these institutions, in promoting these institutions, in hand-holding these institutions, thoroughly understand these challenges. Not that we don't have a solution to these challenges. We have. People have to, everybody cannot experience and then solve the problem. So we have to come out with solution to each of these problems, each of these challenges. So this will go a long way in setting up of successful and sustainable rural enterprises, making farmers make profits, making farmers realize better benefits, making farmers get a better share in the consumer price. So this is possible when we understand, when we address these challenges. Otherwise, it just becomes a target, driven approach. We have set up several rural enterprises. We have closed several rural enterprises, but we never bother to understand the challenges that are faced by them. So at every stage, by every stakeholder involved in the promotion, setting up, running, sustaining these institutions, they face challenges. We need to call out these challenges, understand, brainstorm, so that we come out with proper solution to these challenges. This will go a long way in setting up of these the best institutions which are self-sustaining, which are successful, which become an example to others to follow. So with this, I had told Sureshji 45 minutes I will present. It's exactly 45 minutes now. I'm stopping here. We will have another 10-15 minutes interaction. Anything on this, I would be very happy to share my experiences with you, reply your questions, answer your questions. But one thing, the topic that you have chosen is a wonderful topic, because we always cover this as one of the subtopics in most of the seminars, workshops, trainings and all, but we never talk only on the challenges. This is a very interesting topic, and this is one of the I should say a milestone in achieving sustainability in any of these rural institutions. Thank you very much, and I will stop here. I will be more than happy to answer any of your queries, questions, doubts and all. Thank you.
So, first of all, thanks for your time. And I know you are about to get into another important meeting, key meeting with the Prime Minister. So it is very kind of you that you could spare so much time. I have only two questions, and then I'll hand it over to the people who have assembled here. They could come out with this. The first question is related to the FPO formations. I was talking to one of the NGO founders in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu elsewhere. He's trying to put up all the artisans together, called Sudhir Kamath. He had attempted FPO model in the beginning, and you hit the nail on the head when you said there are a lot of rigidities. The government will not hand over the schemes to you until and unless you meet this. There's a documentation, the red tapeism, the hundreds of issues from the department side as well as from the villages side. So he thought of a via media. So he has tried to organize LLPs, which are very flexible compared to a Companies Act today. 2013 Company Act will ensure that there are rigidities in the law and the statutes. So, and there are a lot of compliances and all that. 2009 they came out with this beautiful model LLP, that is limited liability. I forgot what is a limited liability. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So partnerships. So this was a model from Silicon Valley, basically, because there is a lot of LLCs there in the Silicon Valley, which gives you a lot of flexibility. So he thought of actually going through letting the villagers or the artisans taste success through their participation in some kind of an enterprise. So he sees that LLP could be a stepping stone to the FPO, which will also, sort of give them the business acumen, skills, etc. And then they go to the next step. So this was his model. So my question to you is, can this be a stepping stone to the FPO? Can we have such models built in between the FPO and today's current situation, which is chaotic? Can we have something in between, an intermediary step, which could make things much easier for the rural masses?
No, very interesting question, Mr. Srichi. The issue here is nobody can stop farmers coming and forming an LLP and all that. We have been talking about several challenges being faced by these farmers under the existing framework of FPOs. What we have done, about 10 years discussion on that, deliberations on this, we have arrived at this institutional mechanism. Legal compliances, they're not very, people look at them as a very tough things. I don't look at them. What I suggest is, if at all they want to avail, there are several schemes. Maybe I suggest you to keep one day discussion on the government schemes that are relevant for these rural enterprises. I will tell you, there are 101 such schemes that are available, but many of them have been designed to benefit these FPOs. My only concern here is, when you start farmers institutions, they should get benefited. They should not be, availing the government benefits. So that is the only reason. Anybody can say, people are free to form an LLP, register as FPO under Societies Act, Cooperative Society Act, Multi-State Cooperative Society Act, Mutually Aided Cooperative Society Act, Trust Act, Society, anything they can do. But this mechanism, this institutional mechanism is an innovative mechanism. Let us not be afraid of complying to the legal requirements. It is not a big thing. It's not at all a big thing, I'm telling you. So, because we have to also prepare them. They can graduate over a period of time. we will hand over them for some time. And I always, suggest and request people, don't go for other acts. They can be set up under any act prevailing, but this Companies Act, see, they can operate from Kashmir to Kanyakumari anywhere. They can avail all the benefits of the state and the central schemes. Nobody can stop them. They are their own market adds themselves. So this benefit cannot be given by any other act. Even if you register them under Cooperative Society Act, those restrictions of the border of the state comes. They cannot operate with the same freedom in other states because they have to comply to the law and act of the land, law of the land. So Companies Act is very preferable. I would suggest there is nothing big when people understand these things in a very proper way. It is very, very important that they can understand this. I mean, there should not be any problem with addressing the legal issues. I would suggest people to understand them better and take it further.
Okay, and the last question from my side before I give it to others is regarding the common delivery platform that we want to convey through the film, documentary film, where we can establish a mechanism. All the schemes should be available in local languages. Some are state schemes, some are central government schemes. Central government schemes are there in Hindi and English. And first of all, even the state government schemes, they're not even accessible to the people. There are two major issues. One is literacy issue. The second is accessibility. Which department they should go to, how to go about filing up, how to follow up. All these are many issues. So we thought of a CDP, a common delivery platform at each village, panchayat level or whatever. And some of the experts who came on this particular platform, they also agree that that'll be a good model because many models can be possible. All should drive essentially a sustainable and successful rural development scheme. So we had actually some talks with one of the leaders in training today. They have not only in India a training center, but also abroad in New Jersey. And they are a formidable training organization. They are skilling people, corporates people. And the chief executive officer is in touch with me. He said that it is possible to design modules for business development, modules for strategizing, market for market in creating market strategies, etc., etc. It is possible to build modules. Whatever they are doing at the corporate level, they have to dilute it many times over so that it is possible for rural people, adults in the villages who do not even have the basic literacy skills, in order to bring them up with financial literacy, legal literacy, business skills, etc. So he has given his commitment with a team of leaders at the national level. Some of these people were chartered accountants, the chairman, and many of the so-called Chamber of Commerce, etc., in Bombay, etc. Many of these leaders are willing to contribute for the villages today. That's a very great news for us. So he has agreed to actually work on any syllabus that can be handed over by leaders like you. You already have some vision in your mind how to create these FPO. I was told that there is only one academic course for the entire FPOs in India today. So with your expertise, if you can give us a syllabus, we can get the experts to come on board and design something, modules which can help the villages. This was a thought. I just want your minutes time on this.
It will be a wonderful initiative. Two things you are talking about. One is making the detailed information about the schemes of the state and central governments available in the local languages. I think it is the need of the, we have to do it. And second thing is training people who are in the helm of affairs at the institutional level. So these two are very important. And both institutionally and personally, I should be more than happy to be associated in the initiatives that you are doing, especially when you talk about the film. It's very important. We have to educate people. We can't expect everybody to be highly qualified and educated. But we can certainly see that this initiative is supported and taken forward.
Yeah, we want to screen this film in IITs, IIMs, and all the educational institutes in India, awaken, sensitize the education, the people, the youth of the country about what the rural villages are facing, how they can augment your efforts. You're all dedicated for these kinds of causes, so they all can come together. It will be a synergy. This is the whole idea, sir. Anyway, now I'll open up to the other people who are participating in this team. Kindly feel free, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would like to speak. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Ashok Alur, sir. It's a privilege to hear from you because as I got to know, you are someone who speaks with the Prime Minister as well. So a person like you who is coming on this platform to give your some time to enable us and educate us. So, sir, my first question is that I want to know, like in your speech, you spoke about there is a dearth of talent who can come to work, come and join FPO. For example, in the position of CEO. Now, I have gone through the 44 or 80 pages document of the FPO document that the government has published, and I was utterly, grossly disappointed by the fact that the CEO that of an FPO appoints, they have kept a salary bracket of the CEO to be in the range of only 30 to 40,000. Now, the kind of qualifications that you expect from a CEO of an FPO, like you said, he should have agriculture background. He should be having a horticulture background. He should have management skills, HR skills, people skills, general management skills. Now, if you start counting the number of skills versus the amount you have dedicated to compensate to that person, I was like, how will you ever be able to match with the person with the skill? So clearly, I totally understand that FPO is a social initiative by the government. The government is trying to push the uh, the livelihood and the level of farmers. But at the same time, until unless you bring at least one person who is who is matching all the requisite skills on the board, how do you expect to someone to take up this? For example, not everyone would be interested in doing a social service. Now, for example, I was given an opportunity to join three FPOs. I was having offers from three different FPOs to join as a CEO, but I had to humbly decline because of the same issue. I have done my MBA from NITI Mumbai and undergraduation from an ITK Surathkal, just like Unath Nayak sir introduced me in the beginning. Now, having done an engineering and an MBA from such premier institutes, and 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 just to give you a perspective, I had a job which was paying me 2 lakh rupees a month in the uh, in Dubai. Now, if I have to come back from Dubai and get a subsistence salary of, let's just 30,000 rupees, how is that sustainable? First part of the question. Second part,
Shubham,
I was
it's
again
a very
disappointed
interesting
to note
question.
that
Yeah,
C
one second,
was
Shubham.
not
Yeah, let
with
him
the.
answer because in 3 minutes he has to go on the Prime Minister's
Okay,
channel.
okay,
Okay,
okay, okay.
kindly, sir.
Shubham,
Yeah.
it's a very interesting question you have asked. This is a big challenge. I would like to quote examples. I will not talk theories. See, we have certain FPO CEOs who started with their salary of 5,000 rupees, and today they are drawing 1.5 lakhs. It's just because of their commitment to the FPO. They have built the business over a period of 3 to 5 years, and their salaries have doubled, tripled, and several times. Another example, I also had a big opportunity in World Bank, which would have fetched me 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs in a month. It is basically what I'm trying to say here is it is our commitment to the society. If everybody looks at, that's how our institutions have, remained there. It is basically one, our commitment towards the society, and there is no less scope. You can lead this institution within an year. You can build a big business and draw any salary that you
Oh,
can
so
do.
I was not, sorry, I was not aware that you can increase the salary to 1.5 lakh, 2 lakh
Yes,
like that.
it is not a fixed salary.
Okay.
It is your intellectual capability. It is your managerial skills. How
Yeah.
you build the business of an institution, automatically you will be able to take it further. So,
Okay.
whatever support that is coming, it is from the government, and you should build. There are a lot of people who have desires. They want to see FPOs overnight as big corporates. It's not easy. It's not easy. Even the corporates who have started, they have started small,
True.
right? They have started small. When Infosys was started by Narayan Murthy ji, Madam Sudha Murthy gave him 10,000 rupees. He has built such a big
True that.
institution. Too.
So, sir, why is the CEO not considered in the board of directors and given a stake in the FPO?
See, it is to ensure that there is no conflict of interest, right? There should not be a conflict of interest. So that is the only reason why we always suggest any farmers institution or any rural enterprise to look for an CEO outside of their membership, not the insider.
But sir, just a small input here. These days, if you observe the pattern, most of the companies are offering ESOPs to their employees to enable their ownership. So that brings ownership, right? If you have stake in the company, that brings ownership.
I am not saying no to this, Shubham. Yeah. This will also happen in FPOs after some period of time.
Okay, right? Okay, great. That's great to hear.
We are in a very initial stage. We are infant stage.
Okay,
right? We are just in an infant stage.
Got it.
And any what I should say, flexibility, a greater flexibility will do with institutions. We are trying to keep them as tight as possible. At least they are put on the track. Once they start moving, right, they can move. I mean, government never wishes to interfere and hold them or control them. Government has no financial stake in these institutions. They don't want to keep any ownership, but they want to ensure that they become sustainable institutions. They grow and run this in a proper way. That's it.
Okay, sir, I really wish to contribute to the FPO world.
Thank you, sir.
And hence, I would like to stay connected with you. Maybe even 5 minutes a month or 5 minutes in 6 months is also fine, because I totally understand the kind of busy schedule you have. But I would like to stay connected with you and discuss with you further on this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you, Shubham. Mansa, quickly, word of thanks, please.
Can I request Sai to give the vote of thanks?
Yeah, sure. I can do it. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today. I, on behalf of UGROW and the entire team, would like to thank you for your time and extend a very hearty vote of thanks to you for gracing your important work and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Suresh,
thank you, sir. Namaste, sir. Thank you so much.
We will stay connected. You had set up another meeting.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, we can catch up in the evening or tomorrow. That's fine. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Done, sir. Done, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Bye. Thanks to everybody, all participants. Thank you so much. Bye. Mansa.